Why is sex education still taboo in majority of world and isn't taught completely? Last I checked, porn doesn't really offer any insights into it tends to go about it a slightly different way. I don't know where you live, but I grew out in Europe, France and Germany, and sex ed was gradually stepped up from soft in primary to extensive watched a birth video in school at 14 in high school. But I think the quality of sex ed degraded over the years. That would explain the lack of condom usage. Because it gives religious people the ick. Just this week someone asking where to get STIs tested in his African zone country. Yo behold, he mentioned he asking now because he had unprotected sex 2 years ago. So all people know how to insert their key into the keyhole. They are more or less aware of the consequences of doing the act, but don't know how or in the heat of the moment, do not care to be responsible for the consequences of their acts. Because after all, the non-taboo part is only just about health, safety and hospital paperwork. No one is interested in that boring stuff. Here in Germany, it starts at 2nd grade even in the privately run evangelical school my kid went to. Some has to do with religious people seeing sex as a taboo thing, so children shouldn't be exposed to the existence of sex. Then there's overly protective parents who see their 12-year-old children as the babies that they once were a decade ago, and don't want them to grow up too fast, so to say. Having their daughter know what a penis is scares them. Others have no faith in their children to be mature enough to tackle and understand the subject. And then there's some parents who would rather control the situation themselves and educate their kids in their own terms instead of the public school system. There's always some nutcacks that think school is gonna teach children something radical about sex. It's a control thing. All that is a level of heat that some schools just don't want to deal with every year by a new set of weird parents that are fine teaching kids complex math, biology or what the Holocaust was, but once it's about pee-pee and the vajayjay, it's too much. Old people afraid of kids start fucking each other. Religious control. Enforcing sexual behavior standards on adherents is very common in most religions, but adding layers of taboo to define different sex is a popular cult-building action, creating a pure vs decadent dichotomy which strengthens the cult. Talking openly about sex is a very common choice of taboo because sex is one of the most interesting things humans like to talk about. Most of our societies have hangovers from this stage in societal development, some are still at that stage. We call it biology than sex education if we talk about the science behind it. 2 reasons. Ignorant people are more easily manipulated, and manipulated people are convinced the way they live is the right one. So kids are kept ignorant about sex so they can be manipulated. And a lot of people are kept ignorant about what sex ed is so they can be manipulated into not giving it to kids. Religion plays a big part in it. Isn't it weird how religious groups are so often both opposed to sex ed and guilty of child sex scandals? In Poland, when I was in school, they gave us cards, but not only for us, but for our parents too, and basically the school asked the kid and the parents if they want to attend such lessons. It was not only free, but also non-mandatory. I remember some grandparents weren't pleased about it. They listed topics that it will teach, basic stuff, what to get where and what options there are after incidents. I went for fun. I don't regret. I knew most of the stuff, but some topics really surprised me, and the lady who organized that was pretty cool. Most people study from home daily. I don't think sex ed is taboo. I think the sticking point for people is the age it's taught at. People have problems with, and to be honest, I think it's one of those things that there is no right answer to, as everyone is going to be different on the subject. I remembered we were all in primary school when we were taught. Didn't quite understand at the time the whole significance of sex, but it went over the basics of what happens and what is used to do things safely. I guess they thought the earlier they taught us, the less likely we'd learn from older kids and get persuaded to do it earlier. Because I remember there were some kids dating and they didn't want to do it after that lesson anyway. Because the less educated people are, the easier they are to control. The same culture and religion which is celebrated and is given respect promotes misogyny, patriarchy, fake beliefs and forces it upon everyone is a major reason why sex is taboo. An important detail. In my country most of the places boys and girls aren't allowed to talk to one another freely. In some rural areas people even think that the girl is possessed by a ghost or something if she talks to a man. I'm not very sure about the above sentence, but I've heard that it's true. Even in a few tier 1 cities there are separate college schools for women. There are colleges which punish students if the people of the opposite sex are seen being close. I myself have seen a college which has separate corridors for men and women. What I'm trying to say is not just sex, but men and women talking or being together is seen as bad. I do like to make it clear that it's not like this everywhere in the country, but many places. I'm lucky I got to grow up somewhere where this was all not a problem. I'm sorry if you find my comment as a rant. Conservatives prefer people to be really worried about useless stuff. Because of religions. I don't know why they'd watch porn for terms like germ-selig, fusion, or other things like that. None of that is covered in any of the porn I've ever seen or heard of. I don't know about the majority of the world. In the US, every school district is semi-independent. We have over 12,500 separate school districts here, with local voters and superintendents deciding what is taught and how it is taught. The 50 state governments have some influence over their curriculum, but not total control. If we want change, we need to show up at our local school and school district to make a difference. Since most school district meetings have less than 20 people bothering to show up unless there is a budget or layoff issue, it should be easy to be heard. If we can get heard at the district level, then maybe we can also influence our state. Beyond that, I don't know what to tell you. I was taught well in public school in the 1970s and in Catholic Jesuit high school after that. We had a comprehensive sex education curriculum. I think your assumption is wrong. 90 of countries teach kids about sex and stuff. It's just that some education is done at family level, some in the classroom.